Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by today's video, we will be talking about the large, massive cool down that is right now going on across the United States. It is bringing early snow across southern Canada, frost across a good portion of the northern United States, and I want to go over that. But I also want to focus on a long range with what will follow this massive cool down. By the way, if you have noticed, if you're a returning viewer to the channel, I did alter the scenery a little bit. I added a satellite radar loop above my head. I zoomed in on my face a little bit more, and I also added the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map with all the alerts, advisories at the top. And then at the very top, there is the time frame with where the data that I'm showing on this bigger view is going on at what time. So hopefully that helps, and if you like this layout, please let me know in the comments. I think it's going to be nicer, it's more clean, and it gives you a little bit more view of different things while also just making it cleaner. So let me know about that. So let's start off by looking at the European model, and we are looking at this currently. We have a large system, a large powerful fall storm currently unraveling across the United States. Notice that it is bringing a pretty large cold front across a good portion of Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska. In fact, you could see that on the satellite view above my head, that massive cold front spinning across the northern United States as that low pressure sits across Canada. Also, do note we are dealing with quite a bit of precipitation across the southwest, mainly in form of showers and monsoons. As that continues working its way further east, this large system, notice that the cold front intensifies and brings thunderstorms and rain into Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, but also notice that lobe of cold air behind this system. And this thing is at 994 millibars of low pressure at this point, so it is a pretty strong system. Nothing record breaking, but for early September, this is definitely a strong system. Do note, however, this isn't all that this system has for us. It gives us a little secondary shot. You can see that lobe of cold air, that 540 line, if you could, I could maybe draw it out for you. That is the lobe and the center of that cold air. And note that we have a little secondary system developing on the backside of this into Thursday, September 4th, as you can tell by the time in the upper right-hand corner. And as this continues delving down from Manitoba and Saskatchewan into the Dakotas, into Minnesota, it develops also a pretty nasty cold front with it. Some thunderstorms, some showers across Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and quite a bit of heavy concentrated rain across northern Wisconsin as this thing intensifies and becomes its separate own low pressure. Now at this point we are looking at a very weird combination of the old low parent pressure to the north kind of stacked on top of this low pressure, so we literally have stacked low pressures. And essentially what this means is that the cold air associated with these storms is going to be here for quite a bit longer period of time than normally. Normally we have a low pressure, kind of does whatever it does, and then it moves away rather quickly. But because this one follows a second one, it kind of wraps in and prevents this first one from leaving, and it kind of creates a jumbled mess, and essentially that prolongs the cold temperatures. And you can see that system is still spinning away across James Bay and Quebec all the way by this upcoming weekend, and still dragging a cold front with showers and storms through the central and northeastern United States. If we are to take a look at the total accumulated precipitation forecast in inches through this upcoming Saturday, notice that again the heaviest precipitation will be concentrated where this low pressure, where both of these low pressures, I should say, are just going to be meandering and producing these backwash showers behind their circulations of low pressure. And do note that that could extend anywhere from that ½ inch to as much as 2 inches in those light purple spots across central Ontario there, but also stretching into Quebec and the lower and upper Great Lakes. Do note that the secondary cold front potentially developing on a weekend could leave some showers and storms across Missouri, Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, and through the Northeast. But also, I want to note, I haven't mentioned this yet, across the Southwest there will be not only monsoon activity, but potential moisture from a tropical system that is going to be meandering its way from the Baja Peninsula of Mexico into mainland Mexico and then into Arizona and New Mexico. Maybe, again, you won't be directly hit by a tropical storm per se, but you will get the impacts of extra moisture, which will superfuel some of those thunderstorms and showers. So as of recording this video, this is what the 2-meter temperature anomaly map looks like across the United States. And you can see that there is already a decent sized cold footprint across the upper Midwest and into the northern plains and across southern Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and most of Ontario there. Note, however, that across the northwestern United States and especially across southwestern Canada, there's going to be a lot of heat, and that is going to be stubbornly sitting there. Also, a little bit warm out ahead of this cold wave, but good news for you, unlike southwestern Canada, you guys will be getting that cool down, and that will sweep away that heat. This hot air will be stuck, and it won't be able to move eastward, and it won't be able to go into the ocean because of this cool down. So note that as I put this forward into Thursday, and especially into Thursday night into Friday, these anomalies not only increase in intensity, we are seeing now anomalies that are essentially 16 to 20 degrees Celsius below average, so Fahrenheit in some areas is going to be approaching negative 35 degrees below average. And then look, Friday, it continues, especially with that reinforcing secondary little low pressure. As I showed you earlier, that little guy meanders through the northern plains and into Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. And what that does is it reinforces some of this colder air a little further west, as that system spawns further west and south than that first one. Nonetheless, these two air masses combine into one giant one, and you can see into Friday and Saturday. If you're experiencing cool temperatures right now across the upper Midwest, you will continue to. If you are not yet across the south and further east, you will soon. And notice that by this weekend, this thing continues spreading into the northeast, into southeastern Canada, into the southern United States, excluding maybe the peninsula of Florida and southern Georgia, South Carolina there. Note, as I mentioned, the heat stays across the southwest of Canada and the northwestern United States. A little bit maybe decreasing intensity there, but nonetheless it stays. And until this cool down breaks down, that will be stubbornly there. And notice that this cool down doesn't go away that quickly. By next week, Tuesday into Wednesday, its footprint is still across much of the eastern and southern United States. It has moved away now at this point from the northern plains and from southern Canada, so it's slowly beginning to move away, and by really next week, this time frame, Wednesday into Thursday, that cool down starts breaking down fully. We may or may not see another small reinforcing shot of cool air across southeastern Canada around this time next week. That remains to be seen. But at that point, the pattern breaks, and we are potentially looking at a major pattern change, which I want to address next. So this major pattern change won't come in the form of more cold or a winter storm for those snow weather lovers. For the warm weather lovers and for the summer lovers, this thing will come in the form of a large heat wave. I know, you may be thinking it's already fall. For me, it's felt like it's been already fall for quite a while. We had that cool down in late August here around northern Illinois and much of the other United States areas, and now we're followed by this even more intense cool down, and now we are potentially looking at a massive warm-up going into mid to late September. But if you recall, that's what I called for in my official fall outlook. I figured that it would be a pretty warm fall, especially September and October, and it seems that the models are hinting at that. Notice that into middle of September, so next weekend, September 13th and 14th, so not this upcoming weekend, but again of the 13th and 14th, Saturday and Sunday, we see heat spreading across many of the areas that are now experiencing 40s during the night. Heat in the form of 80s and 90s. Yes, so that is definitely unfortunate. The long range definitely looks like it's going to be very warm, especially across the Midwest, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, the northern plains, the southeast. I mean, just pretty much everywhere, excluding maybe the southwest and portions of the southeast. Notice British Columbia and Alberta also maintaining that heat, unfortunately. So around that time of September 13th through the 14th, we will be experiencing that warm-up. I want to show you now the 2-meter temperature Fahrenheit readings. So instead of the anomaly showing us where it's above and below average, I'm going to focus on where it's going to be during what the actual temperature will be. And note that across the nighttime during this warm-up, there will be areas that are experiencing warmer temperatures than they are now experiencing during the day. Even though the days are getting cooler, the nights are getting longer, the sun is getting weaker, these late fall warm-ups can be very, very, very potent. And notice that we will be experiencing widespread 80s, even 90s across Iowa, Missouri. Again, this is pretty far out, but the European model in terms of temperatures usually does a slightly better job, and it is less aggressive and more realistic. So if this model is showing 80s and 90s and we continue to see signals for this heat wave, I wouldn't be surprised that we do end up seeing the numbers that we're seeing here. And note that there could be a few areas with luck maybe that are a little cooler across the northern United States, but still running generally warmer, maybe a little bit of cool air there, probably to do with cloud cover if I'm guessing. Yeah, some sort of a system dragging out a cold front here. So it does look like the warmth is coming back despite this early taste of fall, and that's gonna, I guess, make the warm weather lovers nice and happy. But for now, we have this really large storm and this cool down that will be bringing in more rain and more precipitation. That is basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.